everybody. I am Nikki Myers, Mrs. Colorado 2014, and I'm here today with Corey Francis, and she is Mrs. Arvada 2020. And she is going to be competing in the Mrs. Colorado pageant here coming up in July 11th in downtown Denver at the Ellie Hawkins Opera House. And we are just doing a fun little interview to get to know our contestants. Unfortunately, with everything going on in the world, they are not able to go out and make appearances as a normal title holder would. And so this is as close as we're going to get right now. So we just want to get to know you a little bit better, Corey. So let's start by, I just told everybody you're from Arvada, but go ahead and say your name and your title, and then give me like a 30 to 45 second rundown about something fun about you.
Absolutely, Nikki. So as Nikki said, I am Corey Francis, Mrs. Arvada, and I do reside in Arvada. A little bit about myself. I have been married for 15 years to my husband, Greg, who I happened to meet on a vacation to Mexico. And then I am a mom of two. I have an 11-year-old Rubik's Cube solving son, Jackson. He's addicted. And then I have a 7-year-old spunky motocross riding, karate chopping daughter, Olivia. So when I'm not busy taking the two of them to different sporting events and practices, etc., I also work full-time. I work for Wells Fargo as a business initiatives consultant for our financial health and education program called Wells Fargo at Work.
Awesome. I have met both of your children. They are amazing. And Olivia is definitely the alpha female of your family. I love that girl. She's got a lot of fun. All right, so tell me a little bit about what motivated you to compete in the pageant. I do have to insert something here because I think it's funny that I got to interview you because all the former queens are interviewing other contestants, but you were special for me because Corey is actually the person who got me to sign up for the pageant. So I want to hear where your story came from.
Absolutely. So yes, Nikki and I have known each other for years. We actually met in Arizona and then both ended up moving back to Colorado or moving to Colorado.
And we're now both in Arizona at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. What I ended up deciding to enter the pageant was because we did move from Arizona to Colorado. I was working from home full time and kind of feeling disconnected, not really knowing very many people in the area that we moved to, slowly starting to get to know folks through volunteer efforts, but I wanted to get more integrated into the community. So what better way than compete in the Mrs. Colorado America pageant, where I'm able to meet, 30 to 60 women, depending on the year, that are like-minded, that want to make a difference in the community, that are wanting to empower other women. And so that's why I chose to join. A secondary factor would be, it's been amazing for my kids to learn through watching me. The things that they've learned around working hard, going for a dream, not giving up, because this is my 5th year competing. It's very valuable. So it's now a fun family event in the aspect that they all help support me throughout the year as Mrs. Arvada.
And so jumping off of what you just said, it is your 5th year. It is. And I think that there's a lot of people who have come and gone through this system who say, oh, I didn't win, I'm not coming back. I'm obviously not what they're looking for. What would you say to that person that's maybe done it 1 year or 2 years or even 3 years, and they're just like, you know what, I'm just never going to win it. Why am I doing this?
I have always lived by a quote that is, experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. Every single year I have walked away from the pageant, whether it's winning a title or not, and I've learned something. I actually think sometimes you learn more about yourself when you don't capture that title right away. I have had to look at myself, reevaluate things, approaches I've taken, and every single year work to better what I bring to that stage and to my community. And I think that's incredibly important. So don't give up. If this is something that you truly want to achieve and believe in, keep going. It took me 7 years to win a different title. So there is nothing wrong with coming back on that stage 5, 6, 7 years in a row. You're going to learn something, and ultimately I think it's going to help you be a better title holder in the future.
Well, and like you said earlier too, you know, each year you come, you have the opportunity to meet 30 to 60 women. They're not always the same women every year either. So
No.
it's exponential. You're meeting those 30 women, then the next year you meet a different 30 women. And it's just, you're building this network, like you said, of amazing women who
Right.
come from all different walks of life, but ultimately kind of have that same goal of like making themselves better, spending time on themselves, teaching their families, you know, life lessons. And, you know, whatever their motivation may be, it's not always the same every year. And like you said, you're learning something new every year. So I think that's really great insight.
Yeah.
Um,
I've had contestants I've competed with that are personal friends now. We do appearances together, whether they personally hold a title now or not, or are out in the audience cheering me every single step of the way. And these are girls that we technically were competing against at one point. So it just shows the friendships that you can make through the experience.
absolutely. Let's talk about if this was the year for you, okay? If this is the year that Corey Francis is Mrs. Colorado 2020, tell me what you want your year to look like. I mean, it's a weird year right now. Let's hope that it's nothing like right now.
You know, I think if anything, the situation right now is for us to be flexible, which is a valuable experience that any title holder needs to have underneath their belt for sure. So if I were to be selected Mrs. Colorado 2020, I'm a planner by nature. So I've already been thinking about what does this look like for me. We've been having a family discussion around how do we incorporate this into our family life and my professional life as well. I will spend the entire year supporting not only the growth of the Mrs. Colorado America pageant and the communities throughout the state of Colorado, but also in supporting the terminally ill. My father has been battling a terminal illness for 11 years now. And it's incredibly important for me to share his story as Mrs. Colorado and help others realize the needs of the terminally ill and their families. How can you help them? Because we all at some point will be affected by a terminal illness. Your father, a child, a friend, you name it. But I also have that strategy of appearances. I plan on doing at least 4 appearances a month throughout the state, and 50% of my appearances, I want my family involved. I want my children there, being able to also volunteer alongside. Watch me share their grandpa's message of his illness. And I'll be going 0 to 60 on day 1, for sure.
Well, and I think that's important too that you point out. A lot of women say, gosh, if I won, I have no idea how I would do all of that. And the beauty of the Mrs. pageant, and specifically in Colorado, our director Emily's really great about, is that number one, most of your appearances, you can bring your kids if you know, check with the host of the event. Number two, you kind of get to plan your own schedule. We know you have lives, husbands, children, school, work, everything. You know, we've got to fit it in where we can. And some weeks are going to be busier than others, you know. There's definitely a season of events, and so sometimes they're busier, sometimes they're slower. We're definitely not asking you to be, you know, like the Miss America girls where they're on a schedule of almost daily, you know, events. We have to keep in mind those girls are just in school. You maybe have a job, but usually not. I think some states require you to quit your job, so we're not like that at all. We understand that this is not your whole world. So.
But you're only in Colorado once, so I want to make the best of it.
That's true too. So yeah, we do appreciate those queens who get out there and definitely spread the message of whatever their platform may be. And that's another thing, we don't even have to have a platform. I was a potluck queen, Emily likes to call me, because I didn't know what I was passionate about, but well, I know what I'm passionate about, but it was a million things. I love kids, I love seniors, I love vets, I love it all. So you don't have to pigeonhole yourself to one thing, but you totally can, because I know like you are super passionate about, you know, getting the word about your dad's illness and just terminal illness in general. And so either way is fine. And that's what I think a lot of women don't understand. Oh gosh, I don't know what I stand for. And that's okay. Like you can find your way. And we have appearances every year. Like I know you've done the veteran motorcycle ride with us before, which is always fun. And so there's appearances that we'll ask you to go to as an organization, but once you find your passion, you can go for it. Let's talk about, we already know how long you've competed. Let's talk about who you admire and why.
Ooh, that's always a good question because quite honestly, I think every phase of your life, who you admire, there's some consistency, right? But then there's also some new folks that also will pop in depending on where you're at. So I'm going to answer that question around who's been consistent in my life, and that's my dad. Obviously, watching my father be diagnosed with frontotemporal lobe degeneration or FTD 11 years ago was life shattering. I mean, to be blunt, for all of us. And that just, it allowed me an opportunity to really reflect on who he was and also who he is while he's battling this disease. My dad was that man, and Nikki, you've had a chance to meet him before. He was 150% dedicated to his family, would do anything for his girls, myself, my sister, and of course his wife, and would help anyone in need, whether it was his family, friends of mine, coworkers, etc. And I really admire his dedication to the family and to those that are important to us. He also taught me to go for my dreams. I was the first in my family to go to college, largely because of the sacrifices that my father made to help me be able to achieve that dream. I admire him. As a parent now, I look back and I am amazed about everything that he did for us as a family.
Well,
and even for his grand.
Yeah, and I think that's really neat that you say that, he did everything for you. And I did get the chance to meet him before he got sick, and I completely agree 100%. I saw him at all your previous pageants and dance competitions, and what I think is beautiful, something beautiful that's come out of his sickness is that, now you've had the chance to give back to him in that way. I know you and your family make several trips out here to Arizona every year to, be with him, even though it's really hard because, his illness does prevent him from kind of remembering who everybody is and being able to be super social. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about your dad's illness? Why don't you kind of explain what's going on with him? Because I think it's super important.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. So my dad, 11 years ago, started demonstrating some behaviors that we thought were odd. But quite honestly, we were in the downturn of the economy. The housing market was crashing. His company went bankrupt as a result that he was working for. So of course, naturally, we contributed those odd behaviors to stress. I mean, we all managed through difficult situations differently. What we did not realize was how severe some of these symptoms were that we weren't even observing, including my father could no longer tell time. He couldn't count change back. So my mom knew something was wrong, and he was diagnosed with frontotemporal lobe degeneration. It's a extremely rare terminal neurological disease that basically the front temporal lobe, the brain disintegrates. And the frontotemporal lobe is really responsible for your judgment, your personality, your ability to communicate, understand societal norms and right and wrong, and self-control. So my father now has been living in a nursing home for, going on 6 years. He does not know who I am anymore. No longer remembers my children as well, which is probably the most difficult thing, is to watch my son, who had a special bond with my dad, manage through this. It's heartbreaking. I'm 41 years old. I've had life experiences, a ton of memories with my dad. My son had some before my dad really got sick, and he holds on to those. And at 11, it's really difficult to understand that grandpa is going to pass away. It is only a matter of when, because there is no cure and no treatment for his disease. So that's my father's story, a little bit of his story, I guess you could say, about his diagnosis. And the impact to our family has just been devastating, to say the least, watching someone go through this while he's physically still here. The man who raised me and loved me has been gone for a long time because of this disease.
I have to say, when he was still social, I do remember we are Facebook friends, and he would every day go on a walk, and he would come
Yes.
and write about his walk on Facebook, the temperature outside, the weather. We saw the birds, and I mean, it's silly now, but those will be the little things that I cherish about him when he is gone, because I just remember being like, oh goodness, here he goes again on his walks. But those are the things.
Yeah, and when he first was diagnosed, he still could function in society, although they immediately took his driver's license and told him he would no longer be working. Unfortunately, he had lost his job the day before his diagnosis. But I look back at his Facebook page now and I just chuckle because I remember being like, Dad, that's not what Facebook is for. You don't have to post the temperature outside. But that just shows how it slowly impacted his thinking and his cognitive ability.
Absolutely. What advice would you give to a family that might be learning about a diagnosis similar to this with their own family?
Well, ironically enough, considering how rare it is, it's becoming more and more, I don't want to call it common, but more and more well-known, which is now resulting in more individuals diagnosed with it. And I've had several close friends who have lost parents to FTD or has a parent struggling through it. Oh, advice, I'm there for you. I would have no problem listening to their story, giving them a little bit about our experience. Every battle with FTD is different. Every family background is different and experience is different. So what I'm going through may not be exactly what they go through, but having someone that understands the disease that you can talk to is incredibly important. And then take it day by day. Have a plan, but know there are going to be things that get in the way of that plan or don't go as planned. Because of the rareness of this disease and folks' inability to understand it, it's difficult to find resources. Unfortunately, in Colorado, there is not a single support group for the adult children of an FTD patient. And that's something that I do want to work on as Mrs. Colorado, is try to get a support group set up, because an adult child's experience is very different than the caregivers or the spouses. And oftentimes I feel like we may be forgotten in a way. It has different challenges, and it's important that we have resources and support as well.
Gotcha. That's great. We're going to lighten it up here for the end. We've got about 10 more minutes to go. I want you to tell me about your favorite toy growing up.
Oh gosh. Okay, so an interesting fact about me. Sorry for the helicopter that just flew over. So an interesting fact actually about me is I grew up moving constantly. I mean, there were times that I was going to 3 or 4 different schools in 1 year. I think I've lived in over, 38 cities now in my 41 years of life. So toys were kind of a rarity. You got really good at minimalizing stuff because of the amount of time that you were packing and moving. So quite honestly, what I'm going to consider a toy in this situation would be my dance shoes. Dance was an integral part of my life. It's actually how I met Nikki, because that was a constant. No matter where I lived, a jazz square was a jazz square, a plie was a plie. And so I could immediately sign up for those dance classes, meet a whole nother group of girls and boys that were passionate about dance and enjoyed it. And that gave me some consistency that I really needed considering moving. So if I wasn't at a dance studio dancing, I was in my garage tapping away or spinning in the kitchen, doing everything that would drive a parent crazy. But that would be my favorite toy. Still is. I just can't quite do what I used to do anymore.
Right. All right. So final question. I want to know during this quarantine, if there was one song you could only listen to for the rest of COVID-19 quarantine, if all of you could stopped except one song, what would it be?
The song that I think is really critical or important right now would be "I Will Survive." I mean, that is an oldie, but it is classic. And I will admit, there have been times during all of this COVID-19 crisis that I have felt like I was out of control. I'm a planner by nature, so losing control can be difficult. I've had to learn how to be flexible, and there have been times where I may have cranked up that song and just belted it out as long as I could to help me feel like we'll get through this. We will get through it. It's going to be challenging, but we're going to survive.
Yep, and it's a great one to sing for sure, and dance to, and maybe we'll have to get it into the pageant program this year that we all survived. Yes. We made it to the pageant.
No kidding, that'll be a theme song.
Exactly. Awesome, Corey. Well, I love that we're both in Arizona right now, but both representing Colorado right now, and that we're so close, but we can't be together, which just stinks. But I am so glad I got to chat with you this morning, and I can't wait to see what you do up on that pageant stage this year.
Thank you.
Bye, Corey.
Bye. Have a great day.
You too.